A miracle is a positive event in our lives that seems to oppose the laws of physics or the natural order of things. Perhaps miracles are natural events outside the peripheral perception or beyond the limits of human reasoning that gives hope at times of despair or uncertainty. The 9/11 Patriot Act caused the greatest global economic meltdown by the time I graduated in fall 2008, class of global economic crisis, which was history repeating, but no one wanted to call the crisis by its real name. The Great Depression, too. The new free-for-all 9/11 Spending Act mandated by George Bush Jr. drained our economy by paying our neighbors to keep an eye on us as secret intelligence operatives, and corporations now protected by secret emergency measure under the guise to keep us safe while violating the intent to our right to personal privacy protected by our Constitution. I gathered my research by interviewing Alsatian immigrants in Castroville, Texas, who still had living memory of the area's history and spending days in the Castroville Library that had a collection of local, national, and international works not yet replaced by online computer terminals. Unlike the nearest university library empty of books and people, this small town book depository was full of locals reading books and enjoying the library's resources, lest history repeat. My home, a farmhouse, was miles away from my field project, so I spent the last night at an old inn after interviewing Mary, a young lady my age, for information concerning my research. Mary, a park ranger, suggested that I stay at the local historic landmark inn, which was the beginning of a lifelong relationship. Any free morning, a morning without the alarm clock, I wake to the automatic timing of my friend Mary's secret ritual. Each free morning, I instinctively open my eyes, peering through my bedroom window, watching her morning backyard ceremony. Unknown to Mary, I take part in our family ritual and can't help but question if the ceremonial part I play is inappropriate, not being of Catholic origin like Mary, and we never talk of getting married. Nevertheless, as I watch her baptize a statue of St. Francis atop our bird bath with the garden hose, a brand new day opens up for me as I feel an easing of mind. I don't know what it does for her, but for me it's sort of a rite of affliction, a daily renewal, or a cleansing of the soul. Mary's ritual started soon after she changed her mailing address to my old farmhouse at the end of some dusty Texas dirt road. Within the first few days, household chores were divided into her category and a his category, no longer his alone. Mary took over the important tasks, things like washing dishes, cooking meals, and feeding my animals. Me, I have more time for the aesthetic masculine things, like making sure the important things are done properly. The purpose of her secret ritual is unknown. It could possibly be that the garden hose is too short, and sprinkling is the only way to fill the bird bath with water. The secrecy may be the fact that I have never asked her what she was doing. Why should I ask and ruin a good thing? Critical thinking has never been much of a help to me in matters of the soul. Catholic I am not, nor do I have an objection to becoming a member, but it is one religion I know very little about. Its members seem to talk about Catholic tradition only with other Catholic members. Occasionally they will surprise you and say something Catholic like, Saint so and so appeared to me in a dream and told me that everything will be all right. But they usually end the conversation with the visual experience, then move on to more earthly talk. That's probably the real reason why I don't ask Mary about her morning ritual, not wanting to offend her faith and tradition. Then again, I just might surprise her with my own cultural rituals. Cultural is not a good thing or bad thing. It's just the best a group of people can do. It seems to me that we are bound by instincts of affection, an innate fear of loneliness. That's what cultural is. Something that's familiar, shared with those that we love. Sure, when we talk about culture, we misrepresent by illustrating blazing fashions, spicy foods, entertainment, and sometimes strong drink. Seldom do we understand culture as a struggling extended family, chieftains by the order of a clan pulling together small nomad bands, roaming the asphalt plains of advanced civilization. I don't think we will ever have it as good back in the day, the Neolithic day. So just maybe we misrepresent the St. Francis's tradition as we do other customs, and think of the saint in just poetic terms, a good saint who cares for animals. It just could be that St. Francis has deeper symbolic meaning, something grand or more encompassing, something that bonds all living things together. And just maybe we understand that deeper meaning as something that need not be questioned or thought about, an innate understanding that is universal without cultural boundaries. The morning ritual is something close to me, a spiritual bedroom window view of my own backyard. The mystery behind my spiritual uplift is probably best left unknown. It is probably best to keep quiet or appreciate the silent healing, even if my rational mind describes the scene as just a religious icon or childish fantasy. It moves me in a way that nothing else does. Perhaps St. Francis is just a concrete statue on our bird bath, but when I open my sleepy morning eyes, I see a saint come to life by holy water, a rock hard concrete idea gleaming with compassion in the morning sun. Our Rio Grande wild turkeys prefer drinking from the new birdbath statue Mary moved from her easy storage bin rather than their old rusty watering bucket. It wasn't long before these birds had to wait at the back door to be fed gracefully by a beautiful girl instead of the usual bucket of grain I would throw over their fence. It took a while for Mary to understand the complexity of the different feeds and daily bird proportions. But once I was sure she had a handle of it, she improvised with old breadcrumbs and had the birds eating right out of hands. Kind of like what I understand St. Francis would do, assuming he is the designated saint of animals. Like I said previously, critical thinking has never been much of a help to me in matters of the soul. All I know is on the dawn of my free mornings, when I awake to Mary's St. Francis baptismal, I have new insight, a spiritual awakening of a sort, something that gives me meaning and purpose. Why should I ask Mary the meaning of her ritual and ruin a good thing? The day I first met Mary, doing research on the Medina Dam Reservoir, she suggested I stay at the historic landmark inn in room number 9. So after a day of research, I paid for a night's lodging as the clerk explained that Mary had returned to San Antonio at the end of her shift. The clerk went on to explain Stephen F. Austin granted the farmland of the Medina Valley to Henry Castro for establishing a colony of Alsatian immigrants in Texas around 1842, and the landmark inn was built around the early settlement, carrying different names as owners over time. My arms full of textbooks, I walked the rickety stairs to room number 9, intent on continuing my studies, but fell fast asleep the moment I laid down on the soft antique brass bed. Around 1 a.m., my right eye opened to the doorknob of my room turning. However, the door was locked, and I assumed it was just another guest at the wrong door. I fell back to sleep to be awakened by pebbles hitting my upstairs antique plate glass window. Fully awake, I got up to look outside but saw nothing or no one in the well-lit yard grounds and went back to a sound sleep. Once again, around 3:30 a.m., my right eye opened to the doorknob of my room turning repeatedly, and now a push against it each time. My first thought was the inn was haunted, but dismissed the thought thinking another guest had too much to drink and was at the wrong door. Before I rose up to assist, the turning stopped and I heard footsteps walking away. The next morning, I waited outside the inn's dining room, reading, as I waited for the other guests to wake for breakfast. Mary appeared and explained the food was getting cold, if I would like some breakfast. I explained I was waiting for the other guest. To my surprise, Mary said, "What guest? This is a weekday, usually full on weekends, and I was the only person registered." Mary must have noticed my eyes and whispered as if reading my mind, "Did you see it?" "See what?" I responded. "The ghost," she explained. The moment she said, "Did you see it?" my mind's eye opened to a visual of an elderly couple, glistening transparent bodies or ghost-like figures pushing on my door, seeking my help as if they were lost between the realities of living and their memories of the dead. Mary must have noticed the remorseful feeling of guilt on my face as I toyed with the idea that maybe I could have helped them if I opened the door and offered some help but remained in bed. A period of time had passed before my attention focused to the present moment as I realized Mary was offering a silver serving tray of bite-sized cuts of exotic cheese, crackers, chocolates, breakfast tarts, and local homemade Alsatian sausage. And she was asking for the third time, with an escalating rise in her voice, "Would you care for some cheese and crackers?" "Oh no, I'll have something light. Do you have some cereal or juice?" I responded and acted as if I was daydreaming or a little absent-minded, a habit I had obtained over the years when caught in the act of a shifting to another state of consciousness or a transpersonal way of knowing. People like me compensate to disguise talents that most would never understand to avoid appearing abnormal or making someone feel uncomfortable about something that is natural to me but to some beyond the limits of human reasoning. I quickly diverted her curiosity back to her by asking Mary to explain her belief in ghosts she revealed to me, while I kept my secret of having a trans personality in a closet in the furthest reaches of the back of my mind. Mary had seen ghosts at the inn in the past. A ghost, if they do exist, is a phenomena that seems to oppose the laws of physics or the natural order of things. The sighting of a ghost would be something invisible to some or outside their peripheral perception, but not for Mary and me. She talks of ghosts as if they were the souls of Texas pioneers that lived, worked, and died at the inn centuries ago, some of which were caught between two worlds, and others that preferred to stay. I asked Mary, if they were ghosts, why didn't they just walk through the walls instead of trying my doorknob? I answered my own question by saying, they can walk through walls, but they cannot enter a locked room? As if I knew what I was talking about, which made little sense, but kept the conversation going long enough for me to ask Mary to a movie. I didn't get a no, but did get a maybe. Like I said, a miracle is a positive event in our lives that seems to oppose the laws of physics or the natural order of things. Perhaps miracles are natural events outside of peripheral perception or beyond the limits of human reasoning that gives hope in times of despair or uncertainty. Mary and I recognized we shared a lot of things in common, such as our conversation about ghosts. When we talked about their souls, we were speaking of the essence of what makes us each an individual knower or the eyewitnesses of what we perceive. Perhaps getting a glimpse of this I-ness or eyewitness we call soul while living or ghost after death of the body is a phenomena beyond the scope of the way we understand physics or the natural order of things. Perhaps we call the sightings of ghost miracles because it gives us hope to overcome our grieving when someone we love passes and strengthens a conception that a God does exist that gives us purpose and meaning to life. After all, if souls exist, they must be something that dwells in the peripheral blind spot of social invisibility if some claim to see them and others do not. Could it be that there is an everyday, ordinary, common God outside of peripheral perception, as close as the invisible nose on your invisible face, working miracles in our lives? So just maybe we do misrepresent the St. Francis's tradition as we do other customs, and think of the saint in just poetic terms. A good saint who cares for animals. It just could be that St. Francis has deeper symbolic meaning, something grand or more encompassing, something that bonds all living things together. And just maybe we understand that deeper meaning as something that need not be questioned or thought about, an innate universal without cultural boundaries. The transpersonal shift. Before Mary and her belongings moved in with me, she asked what I believed in, or did I have spiritual tradition of my own. I explained I had a guiding star that first appeared in my dreams when I was a young boy, a sort of guardian angel that I looked to for guidance or renewal of the soul. I was quick to point out that my ritual of reverence was not of religious or of psychological importance, but something dear and natural to me. She explained that she had similar experiences and added, well, it's really all the same. We all pray to the same God. I said nothing more about it. Why should I and ruin a good thing? One evening while fast asleep, I shifted into a transpersonal state, watching my body sleep, and next to me Mary rose up from her sleeping body. She turns and looks at me and said, "Oh, this is what you mean. I have been doing this since I can remember, when I was a little girl." I respond, "Yeah, this is it. Nothing complex or unnatural. Like I said before, I'm not talking about anything new or some hocus pocus psychic phenomenon, but I don't know why I waste my time. When you awake in the morning, you will forget the whole thing." "No, I won't," she said. "Yes, you will, just like the others. You'll forget." "No, I won't. I'll show you," she said. "Okay, but you will forget," I said. Seldom do I have a willing transpersonal partner, so I thought about a way to prove it, a way to show Mary that she does have a higher consciousness that is always awake and active, an innate universal knowing the Greeks coined the logos, or the known. So I tell Mary, let's check out the project in the casting studio. We had contracted with a small ceramic house in a town 60 miles from our home, and my idea was to see if Mary could remember what we did, or at least what was viewed during our twilight travel. Mary, thinking I was trying to prove that she would forget, sure of herself about something she had been doing nightly since she was a child, said, "Okay, let's go." I could tell she was true to her word because she needed no instructions like the others, nor did she drift off into a dream as most do. Within a twinkle of time, we were inside the ceramic studio behind locked doors, viewing our project in work. Of course, our bodies still lay in the bed as our essence of souls made a transpersonal shift to another place miles away. The term transpersonal can best be defined as anything outside of yourself, including yourself. Next, we went our separate ways around the studio, admiring the various work of the studio. While Mary was adventuring about for amusement, I was more focused, looking for something that she would not forget. I came upon the small project we had contracted weeks before and noticed that the original small clay sculpture we contracted to reproduce a dozen ceramic replicas had cracked, or the front was shattered and taped together. This sometimes happens during the process of making a mold of a clay model, but Mary and I had no way to know where the broken sculpture was located in the shop or the sculpture was broken, nor did we know it was taped or how the sculpture was taped together, lest the transpersonal shift. While at the same time we slept soundly in our bedroom 60 miles away from the studio that we were now standing in. The following day, I said nothing about the night's events, and she suggested we go and see how our project was coming along at the ceramic shop. When we arrived about noon, the shop was opened, and we went in and walked directly to the project. And she said, "It's broken." I said, "Yes, sometimes that happens during the process, but the replicas are just fine. Do you remember last night?" "No, what?" she responded. "We were here last night as we slept and dreamed." "I remember something," she said, as I said under my breath, "You forgot." Mary may have forgotten our transpersonal shift the night before. She did not forget her camera when we were physically there, and once the photos were developed, revealed my guiding star inches from my head. The same guiding star that I described to Mary that first appeared in my dreams when I was a young boy. A sort of guardian angel that I looked to for guidance or a renewal of the soul. A rock-hard idea, such as Mary's concrete statue of St. Francis atop our backyard birdbath. So while I tried to prove something to Mary, Mary proved to me that there are things, such as spirits or ghosts, are natural events outside of peripheral perception or beyond the limits of human reasoning that gives hope in times of despair or uncertainty. Buddhists in Southeast China, particularly Thailand, erect small spirit houses, usually extended on a single pole about the size of a dollhouse, to offer a place for spirits of the dead and living to visit. While living on the island of Khao Samu, Thailand, a young girl told me that they kept their own spirit house extended way up high next to their bungalow, stocked with gifts and food placed inside for passing souls or ancestors, so they could not wake the household. Going inside to freshen up from their twilight travels or perhaps looking for something to eat or drink. She also made a point of sometimes leaving notes on paper requesting help with some matter of homemade gifts, of thanks for assisting in a previous request or just a gift of love to those that had passed and were dearly missed by the living. Today, some indigenous tribes of the Amazon still practice the art of communicating and moving among the spirits in the night, just as Mary and I, which includes even the youngest of the household, as they slept together in shelters made of local weaved leaf walls, plank wood floorboards, and large palm leaves as the roof, 4 to 6 feet off the jungle floor, supported by wood poles. They talk of their experiences not only in the morning, as if discussing a personal abstract dream, but while they participate outside their own bodies and testify to the occasional visitation of ancestors whose bodies have long passed, just as a person of Catholic faith like Mary might say. St. Francis appeared to me in a dream, and something that troubled me the day before had been worked out, so I need not worry anymore, because it is in God's hands. Little did Mary and I know that our loving relationship and simple lifestyle would be interrupted by a corrupt political machine of Republican ideologies that had transformed Texas into a police state, and for the next 3 years, our privacy and safety would be jeopardized by human behavioral experiments outside of protocol and well outside terrorist threats that made us targets of domestic surveillance. No longer would we enjoy the blessing of living outside the realm of social recognition. Gregory Odell, November 27, 2008, San Antonio, U.S. of A.